There is beauty in just not knowing sometimes in life. I think we get the time to sit without knowing as a that's a gift. That's a gift from the Most High. It's your time to release the anxieties and allow spirit to actually work in your favor. See, we be so used to trying to make things happen. Self-effort. And how does that go for you? Self-effort leads to burnout, stress, the no's that you don't want to get because you tried to make something happen. You moved prematurely. When you are at a standstill, if you're familiar with tarot, if you get the hang, it's like the hangman card. You're being put on pause because there's a lesson that is being taught to you if only you would wake up and open your eyes and see it. And the lesson is your power. Every time you are being like paused, put on ice, it's because you have to be recalibrated. And if you don't use that energy the right way, and when I say that, I mean like instead of sitting there with anxiety and envisioning the worst case scenario, if you don't utilize the recalibration time to realize the power is within you, not outside of you. So you shift your visualizations to not what the worst situation going to be, but the best. And you don't sit and visualize all day. You get up and you start taking action steps towards what you want to manifest for you. Because a mind, like a body in action, the mind is not idle. You don't have time to sit up there and ruminate bad thoughts, scary situations and shit because you're too busy creating something. You can't do both at the same time. I know when I was depressed, I would just lay in the bed. And you know what got worse? My thoughts, my self-loathing. It got worse. The tears got longer and harder. I was building up worse stories in my mind to make me cry even harder. I was beating myself up so bad. And then once I started getting up out of the bed and just planting a seed, because I started a garden, that's what helped me get out of my depression. I started a garden. And listen, I ain't have no money at the time. I used scraps from my groceries and I started a garden, little lettuce and I think onions. And what was the other one I had? Tomatoes, tomato seeds. So I started that and that would make me get up every day, water it, go tend to it, and eventually it just started shifting. I started shifting. But in that time, I wasn't worried. I wasn't beating myself up. My mind was on whatever the task at hand, trying to garden, child, and propagate and stuff like that. So it took me out of my depression. But there was a beauty on the other side that I didn't even see coming, and I would have not seen coming. It may have never even came to my doorstep had I stayed stuck in the bed in a low vibration. Right? It would have skipped me because I wasn't vibing on the same frequency as that. It wasn't until I shifted and got up out the bed, started shifting my vibration every single day from being self-loathing to anticipating seeing just my little plants. Like you got to start small, especially when depression is really bad. You start small. So while I'm getting up every morning, I'm happy to get up every morning. It's shifting my vibration because now I'm happy to get up to go tend to my little garden versus me staying in the bed making a whole horror movie about my life. And so the alignment was never going to be there if I stayed in the bed. So there's beauty in not having the next move. Just know you can't stay in the dark part. So as long as you make a step to get out, one step at a time towards the light, you'll get there. I would have never thought I would have the confidence to even be sitting up here talking to my channel, in those times when I was laying in the bed. And it goes by so fast, guys. Y'all know time goes by fast. You could be sitting in a problem today and blank, and you're in a whole different timeline, and you'll look back and just be like, wow. And that's how I feel looking back 4 years ago, having my life ripped out from up under me, having that stroke and just not knowing what the hell was next. And then fast forward to now, I literally timeline jumped into a totally different body mindset. I see beauty in my ashes, right? And now I'm using them to help others see beauty in their ashes, because so many times we can be around so many people, but they just don't have the antidote. Because what I notice in my own walk, you can have a lot of people, not even a lot of people, just, your regulars around you, whatnot. But we all have our individual walks, and no two walks are the same. So although we may be kicking it and, been together, friends or a relationship or whatnot for years, we all have our different battles and things that we're going through. And some may be harder than others. There's some things that my ex-friends have went through in their lives I never had to deal with. And there's some losses and things and struggles I went through in my personal life that they've never had to deal with. You know what I mean? And so there's no two walks that are the same. And so sometimes you may need to hear a certain word. You may need your cup filled a certain way that your inner circle just can't do for you. And in my journey, I knew early on after the stroke, I needed a therapist. I needed an outside, unbiased person that I can talk to, because like I was saying, people just, they may have had a walk in their life, but they may have not had your walk, and they can't give you what you need to help you get up out of that. So you have to seek outside of your inner circle sometimes to get the feel up that you need to get you up. And that's what happened for me. I seek the therapist. I think I did it within maybe a month of being home. I realized, I needed that, because I wasn't getting that, from my inner circle. Is this, when I came home from the hospital, I think people just went on with their lives. They didn't assume, just like, oh, you didn't die. You know what I mean? You ain't die, so now we can go on with our lives. But my true recovery started when I came home, and that's when I truly needed them. I didn't need them when I was in the hospital to come look at me. No shade, but I got nurses and doctors for that. I needed them when I came home. And so because I didn't have that 100%, I had to find that outside of my inner. And the first thing I did was get a therapist, and she was the first one to start getting me out of the bed. My first thing was to walk on the porch every morning. Get out of the bed and just go walk on the porch. That was the first exercise that I did, and that helped, and it just snowballed from there. And so taking it one step at a time. Don't overwhelm yourself. That's what I'm learning, what I've learned. Because everything happens in the now. Everything happens in the now, for real. Even your past, it happened in the now. That now has passed on now, so now it's the present. It's now the past, and now you're in a new present moment. And everything happens in the now, so you freaking out about what could happen in the future, it's not being faithful to your present moment. That's where the beauty is. That's where the blessing is, right? That's where everything happens, in the present moment, in your now. And so when I talk about my past, I don't go and linger there long. I go there just to make an example, because my past, I don't want to connect my emotions to that, right? I go there, kind of like pluck what I need to talk about, and I do it in a detached type of situation, because your emotions are very important when you're trying to like timeline jump or manifest something for yourself. So if you're trying to manifest a better life, but you're coming from a shitty situation, the part that you need to really worry about, not worry about, but talk about when you go back to revisit that, is the good parts, the parts that you're proud of yourself for getting up out of that. Because if you continue to make a contract with the past, you'll continue to have that energy connected to your present moment. And the present moment is important for you to manifest what you want. So if you're not wanting to have that energy that made you sad, depressed, lonely, abandoned, you can go on and on. You only revisit it just to make yourself understand how strong you are. Like, it's for you to give yourself a pat on the back for going back there, for living that and making it through that, right? And it's strength in going back and plucking your testimony to help others, but for you not to be emotionally connected with it, to stay with it. I don't know if that makes sense. It's not coming out how I want it to, but that's what I'm saying. Like, okay, like me, okay, I could talk about the stroke, I could talk about all of that, but I don't get emotionally invested in it like I used to, with the tears and all of that stuff, as if I'm living it, like reliving it right then, because your brain don't know the difference, right? So when you go to reliving it and crying again and getting your cortisone up and all of that, your brain don't know the difference. So what you just did, you shifted your frequency back to that old timeline frequency, right? So in order to not do that, you can go relive it, but be detached from it, so you don't have that emotional shock, that emotional, revisit, because it'll come right back and it'll make you feel as if you are in that situation again. So that's why I really don't recommend constantly talking about your past, especially if it's not a good past and it's the one that you're trying to get up out of. Don't constantly keep talking about that. Redirect your thoughts and your conversations towards what you want now, what you're calling to yourself now. And that keeps you from that past frequency, from being connected to that loop, right? You're trying to get away from that. And so when I speak on my testimony, I speak on it with pride, because it keeps my frequency high. It makes me happy, gives me self-love, self-confidence. I made it through that. I'm sharing, you know what I mean? Versus me going back and speaking of it in a woe, it was me type of, it happened. And life happens to us all, but it's not what happened, it's how we get up out of it, right? And it just doesn't matter what situation you're in. You find yourself in a shitty situation, relationship, friend group, job, whatever. Okay, once you identify what it is, you don't harp on it. You start finding a way to get up out of it. You start aligning to what you truly want. You start shifting your frequency to match the thing you want. And you can't shift your frequency to match the thing you want by constantly reliving the thing you don't want. That's going to constantly keep you stagnant, keep your frequency confused, honey. So you have to stay focused on staying aligned, staying happy, staying in the now. Your gift is in the now. And so I'm done rambling. I hope you guys had a great time with my chat. It's a little all over the place. Usually is in the mornings. I'm just, speaking off the cuff. But please leave me some comments down below if you want to speak about anything in particular. Give your girl some ideas. And I hope you have a great day. And until next time, peace, love, and happiness.